So this petition got rejected, so I'm having to resubmit it again. And what I find with the petitions committee is they call you out on certain things, usually, right, because you've not had enough words and basically they don't give you enough they don't give you enough volume of writing to properly describe what you want, but also describing how it can be done, right? A lot of petitions are rejected because they say there's no way to do it, right? Now, if you know there's a way to do it, you should really be telling them the way that it can be done in the petition, right? Because in the petition is not only what you want, but also like how you want it done. And if you use all your words upon that, then there's less words to write in what it is you actually want. And then the another excuse they've got is that they don't really know what you're asking, or they can't understand properly. It's not clear what you're asking. If you make it very clear what you're asking, right, then there's this other argument that there's no way to do it, or it can't be done when it can, right? On the Welsh website, they allow a lot more writing and a lot more text, but still, Gareth Price is still rejecting petitions anyway when you write more. So they're coming out with these excuses. It's almost like a seesaw. And if they reject it, it makes you want in your next one to really write a point and explain how it can be done. So it just makes you kind of like, what they really want you to do is just write the simplest thing, right? The simplest thing as simple as possible, right? And not really make any points. They don't really want anyone to make a point, but that's how you win something, by making a point, and that's how you debate something, by making a point, because in a debate, people raise points, right? Like MPs, but they don't really want us to raise any of our points. They only really want us to do a simple request or a simple ask. That's the thing, right? Now, this is a thing, right? When a person wants to make a claim to government, right, make a strong claim and show something, okay? Prove something or show something. They set out a claim, right? Now, the whole point of getting people to sign it is that people see the claim, read it, and support the claim, okay? Now, what Parliament are doing at the moment is waylaying people. They've set up a process and they take absolutely ages to check petitions. It used to take a couple of days, but now it can take up to a month or longer, right? And even then, it could just be disregarded and ignored. And even if they do reject it, it doesn't always get shown on the website. I must have submitted about 10 petitions now since it started, and I've only had one rejected that's appeared on the website, and not even one single petition published yet, right? So I actually think they just try to keep you disengaged for as long as possible. I mean, they don't start. You've only got 6 months to collect 100,000 signatures, which is a massive task, because calculating it out, it's about 1 a minute in waking time, unless you go on these massive groups of people and everyone sign it, right? It's hard to get it even started. Getting it started is the hardest actual part of it. And people are more interested in silly petitions or funny ones rather than serious ones, because they understand them less. Probably less so than government even. And the government don't even understand that much. But the thing is that, this is the thing, right? You're wanting to collect signatures. It's the weight and number of the signatures that is meant to compel it to be debated, right? But yet they don't want to... They're rejecting these petitions and not permitting it to be seen to anyone else, right? But the point of the petition is that when you prepare it and when you draft it up, it's at that point where it's up to you to show it to other people and get as much support as you can. That means that you need to be showing it to people, right, in order to show that they agree with it and support it. Now, Parliament are letting you draft them and submit them on their website, but they're controlling how many people can support it, okay, before they actually publish it on the website. Now, before 2006, no petitions got published by Parliament unless it got debated. If it didn't get debated, it wouldn't get published. That's what happened to all the burned ones and all the ones that destroyed up to 1947, right? So if it did get debated, then it would get published in Hansard, and then it will get printed, and circulated and so forth, right? But so the collecting of the signatures and the preparation of it and the publishing of it wasn't anything to do with Parliament. Not the public. I'm talking about publishing it in order to get the signatures, because that part is on the newspapers or on pamphlets or leaflets and in books, and that's usually between yourself, and the newspaper or the publisher. Now, publishers don't usually reject petitions, but at one point, up till 1985, you weren't really allowed to put them in the newspaper according to the law until you got consent from a court, because you weren't allowed to collect large numbers of signatures. But after 1985, that didn't matter. But nothing could stop you getting up to 20 signatures. So, to be honest, collecting large amounts and numbers of signatures up till 1661 was normal, right? But then from 1661 until 1985, you weren't really supposed to be putting it in newspapers unless you got consent. But once you got consent, then you actually had additional protections. So because we got the right of the subjects, the right to petition, so you actually got enforcement power of privileges, and the court actually would support that and acknowledge that. And you could actually, people were putting them in newspapers with little, so people could actually sign them. And that's an idea that I'd had. And other people were doing it because I found them, and they were printing them on leaflets, but they also put them in the newspaper and had a little form what people could fill it in and sign it and get other people to sign it and then send it back to them in the post, put it in an envelope and a stamp and send them it with all the signatures, right? With the postcodes on and so forth. Now, those privileges are meant to be, they're in the law. They're in the constitutional law. So, and I actually believe that there's a right, it's like the freedom of the press in America, where there's a right to publish because you can't be held to any commitments, and really, they can't really contest it in the law. It is so, the thing is, since 1688, with this illegal prosecutions by the King's Bench for matters decidable only in Parliament, you couldn't really, because it's matters that can only be decided in Parliament, you couldn't really be prosecuted by newspapers or by anyone else, which is where that certificate comes in from the Parliamentary Papers Act. But there might have been a civil claim against you as well for putting it in the newspaper. There might have been a civil claim, whether you could have it in the newspaper or not, but you aren't actually out to have any civil actions against you. That Parliamentary Papers Act can protect against civil actions. Now, the argument is whether we're entitled to that Parliamentary Papers Act certificate or not to support the privileges. Now, this is the thing. In Hansard and in other books, it says that, this is the wording, it says the privilege of Parliament protecting the presentation of the petition, but it doesn't necessarily say presentation to Parliament, because it can be the presentation of it to the public, right? The printing of the petition, all of the documents connected with it, right? So this protects all of the documents connected with it as well, of the accusatory evidence given at the bar. Well, that's actually it's actually saying that petitions accuse something. Petitions committee is saying that you can have a petition which makes an accusation or has wrongdoing in it. Yet MPs can't be prosecuted for the parliamentary business in the courts or at the King's Bench, because it's illegal prosecutions by the King's Bench for matters that are only decidable in Parliament, which includes the behaviour of MPs, right? Now, the behaviour of MPs is dealt with by the Privileges Committee, but you've also got the Forfeiture Committee, right? At the moment, the banders, and this is not in law, They will not allow us to put any petitions about the conduct or behaviour of any MPs or forfeiture. Yeah, they've got committees for this, and it's something that can be referred to. Now, when Parliament had the number 10 website, Downing Street, petitions through that website were referred to different departments of government. So if you had a petition about forfeiture of an honour, then surely that would be referred to the forfeiture committee because they've got one, right? Surely, if you've got a petition about forfeiture of honours, right, then surely it would have, right, the question is there a existing body in this government that deals with forfeiture? Just answer the question, please, yes or no, right? And the answer is yes, there is a forfeiture committee, right? So why are Parliament e-petitions saying that you can't petition about it? And the same goes for privileges, right? Because this is what I'm learning now. MPs can be prosecuted for committing offences in public, right? And they can be sued with civil actions, but not for something that they're doing of agency of Parliament, for the work of Parliament, right? So what can you do against them for the work of Parliament? Well, you complain to Parliament, but they're not wanting us to complain by petition. And the thing about petition is you can get a hell of a lot of people to support you and back you up. And what compels them to debate it is the weight of signatures. Now, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. If you've got an existing complaint against an MP, or even, Sir Keir Starmer, right? Or Sir Lindsay Hoyle, or whoever, right? Or whoever. If you've got a complaint, it doesn't actually have to be just your complaint, right? If you've got a complaint and you go to another member of the public and say, I think this person has done wrong, will you have a look at the evidence and support it? Or if someone else has got some evidence on it as well, right? Other people might have evidence on that as well, right? Now, this is the thing. If people just submit their own... Local councils have a monitoring officer, right? You can complain to the monitoring officer about a local councillor. But all these complaints, people don't know about them. They do eventually... I think you can get them on Freedom of Information and they publish reports. But generally... they're all individual complaints, and it's up to the council or the monitoring officer to gather them together. Like if there's 20 complaints about one councillor or 100 complaints about one councillor, right? But this kind of like this idea of group litigation, right? If you have got a complaint against a councillor, okay, or an MP in Parliament, right, and you write the complaint out and you want other members of the public to support it and agree with you, they might have encountered that in councillor or MP, right? Now, the more people that agree with you and also that know about it, it forms a body, right? And it compels them to do something about it, because there might be quite a lot of complaints about an MP, but nothing might get done about it. So the more people you've got who are aware of it and who actually agree with you, then it compels them to do something about it. So this is why they don't want us to have e-petitions, because then people will read the complaint. But that's a petition. What you do with a petition is you write out a complaint and you get other people to support it. Now, this is what the Petitions Committee are doing. They don't want us to have the power to get other people to see and sign our complaints about members or for forfeiture. Yeah, there is a complaints process, but they don't want it to do it on petitions, and they don't want to put it on the website because they don't want people to actually support it, really, and sign it, and then it have to be referred to the forfeiture committee and be acted on, right, which is a form of defence. So, but yeah, the function of a petition is that you show it to as many people as you can, and then as many people as you can get to sign it, and then it compels them to do something about it. What the MPs are doing is they will not allow you to show it to people, or I guess you can write it out and you can get 5 people to sign it, but they'll always reject it, right? Once you got your 5 signatures, even if you get 20, they'll always reject it. Yet, who else is going to deal with a matter of forfeiture other than a forfeiture committee? So why are they obstructing a connection between e-petitions and the forfeiture committee when there's an existing one, right? And why are they obstructing the connection between the petitions committee and the the privileges committee? Why are they obstructing the connection between the petitions committee and the privileges committee, right? When they had the number 10 website, right, they were referring it to whatever department dealt with it. But now they don't want to seem to do that anymore. So surely when they had e-petitions, which is for the exact same purpose, on number 10 Downing Street website, surely if it was a matter of forfeiture, then surely that would be the place that they referred it to, surely, because it exists. If it exists, then surely you can refer it there. So, they really don't like a lot of these things, and they're trying to obstruct and block them, and think of excuses to obstruct and block them. And we're not even been getting any privileges granted at all or anything. And really, complaints about MPs and grievances against MPs are meant to be dealt with by the Parliament, because it can't be dealt with in the courts when it's to do with Parliament. But they don't want us to have them for display on that website because they don't really want people to support it. Yeah, they've got this figure of 10% that's meant to be a legitimate figure, recognised, whereby, you can get MPs recalled, So it is a form of defence, but it's that they're cheating the system in order to obstruct and block people and waylay them, And now petitions are taking absolutely ages to get checked, months and months and months. It's putting people off, and they're hoping a lot of people forget about them. A lot of those petitions on that website get very small numbers of signatures. There's a lot of petitions that manage to get published that people just, either they're having a hard time sharing them, or no one's interested, or they just leave them on there, right? Yet when it first starts, the first people who got up on there, the first people who got published, they just managed to accumulate tens of thousands of signatures just by being on there. So, this is it. And then there's always this other issue to do with, they might sometimes they act on petitions that don't get 10,000 or 100,000 signatures, or they might actually do something about it. But if they're going to do something about it, why are they saying that they reject it, If you make a strong point in your petition, and if you manage to, get some evidence in there, and if it's possible for them to do something about it, if you only get 10 signatures or even 100, right? Why are they still officially rejecting it? Why don't they just not reject it? This is the thing. And come up with an excuse we can't do this or we can't do that or this or that, which is actually a lie. So they're actually lying about a lot of things. They don't like it when you just don't simply ask for something. Could you please pass me the spoon, or could you repeal this act, please? And then the extremely vague, simple information which doesn't really necessarily prove anything or compel anyone to sign it, right? And they really don't like you making a point. Yet, when you go into a Crown Court or a Magistrates Court and you get a prosecutor who's really trying to prove a point, they use every trick in the book, and they use every point they can get, every advantage they can get, every bit of wit, every bit of guile, right, to make their point vicious, right? That attribute, that skill, that faculty is shunned and blatantly blocked by MPs when we're trying to prove a case with the petitions committee, which is the whole skills and point of a KC, of a barrister, is meant to be to make a point in the courtroom, right? But okay, there's etiquette and so forth. But the thing with Parliament is that they don't think that the principle of making a point is etiquette. Safer swear words, You know, we're not talking about swear words without any vulgarities, right? They just don't like you being clever or witty, and that's how it is. If you actually come across as trying to be clever, right, they don't like it. It's that clever's not their standards, according to Parliament, right? Simple's their standards. Yeah, this is why there's a lot of mistakes being made by Parliament, and they're doing a lot of things wrong. You know, and this is what Boris Johnson was saying. You know, he wishes the world was like Peppa Pig. The petitions committee would like all petitions on there to be like Peppa Pig, basically, right? They don't like anyone trying to be clever, right? Yet it's meant to be the highest level of law you can get because it's lawmaking, right? They don't really want us to get involved in clever lawmaking, and they don't want us to be clever, and particularly when we're critiquing them. Yet, why is it in Hansard? They're talking about accusatory evidence. And I'm reading it straight off of Hansard here. Why was he debarred from redress? Because in his case, as in others, the privilege of Parliament protected the presentation of the petition, the printing of that petition, of all the documents connected with it, of the accusatory evidence given at the bar. And it would have been thought preposterous if Mr. Kendrick, holding a public trust and charged with an abuse of it, had sought redress from the Court of King's Bench against acts done or authorised by the House of Commons, in whatever manner they might acquire publicity. In whatever manner they might acquire publicity. Well, Parliament don't really want it to acquire publicity in any manner at all whatsoever, and definitely not through the website they're providing, because it's almost like they're helping you to get them removed from Parliament or to get a problem corrected, right? That's their fault, right? So what kind of government is it that doesn't really want to lend you a hand in proving that they've done something wrong, you know? But so why create the e-petitions website? You know, this is a thing. Why have the e-petitions website? You know, because they're not really doing us a favour. And in fact, because it is trying to purport and claim that there's certain things that we can't ask for and there's certain things they can't do, it's actually generating and creating misinformation to a lot of citizens who have applied for things and asked for things which actually they were entitled to ask for and things that could have been done. So it really is a gross miscarriage of justice, really, when MPs who are protected from the other courts, there's a legal right to get a redress to Parliament and to do it by petition with signatures. And, you know, the whole point of the petition is for other people to see it, not for Parliament to stop other people seeing it. So I really, you know, they shouldn't have actually... I don't think that they should have invented the website and had it on there. What you know what they should have done is they should have had some kind of independent organisation, you know, like the Ofcom or Advertising Standards Authority or something that was like a non-governmental, a non-departmental government agency or authority, right? That was for the people and not like 38 Degrees, or they don't even really know the law properly either. It should have kind of been like the government, it's a government department, but kind of like independent. And the fact that it's petitions to Parliament, because then it could have pulled our privileges properly under the 1688 Bill of Rights, and it could offer like, you know, help and assistance. Because that isn't that what a lot of these scrutiny departments are, you know, government scrutiny, you know, this is the whole thing about monitoring officers in councils and things like that. And this is the whole point of ombudsman, you know. In fact, it should be kind of a little bit like the ombudsman, really, because the public are acting as the ombudsman. This is the thing, right? You've got all these ombudsman departments and all these ombudsman agencies, and they're meant to be the ones who help people out when they can't get any help, when they can't get anything done, when something's been done wrong. But if you do all the investigation yourself, and if you do all the evidence yourself, right, you're actually getting it sorted out. You're the one who's sorting the problem out. And what you actually need yourself is some sort of authority or power. And that's meant to be what the privileges give you, right? And then get the public to compel the government to act. We're meant to be policing our own government ourselves, really, which is what the petitions are for. But it's the authority that the Ombudsman's got that's meant to be the whole point in it, right? Because a lot of people who submit to the Ombudsman have already done an investigation, okay? So you don't need the Ombudsman to do an investigation. A lot of people really, really have already done the complaints, and they want the Ombudsman to use the authority and powers to compel something to be done about it. But what I find is, instead, a lot of people do a lot of really technical or complicated investigations, and they send it into the Ombudsman, and the Ombudsman don't understand it. The Ombudsman literally don't get it, don't understand it, or are stupid, and the way that the policy is set out is that they can't act or do anything, right? And this is the thing with MPs in Parliament. The Ombudsman keeps saying that, you can't complain about MPs in Parliament. But the thing is, like, for example, the Petitions Committee, it's actually saying that it's government. When a petition gets a response, they're saying, the government responded, right? The government responded. So they're addressing it as we're the government, like the cabinet, and that's something you can complain about. So it's like, and on the Petitions Committee, it doesn't actually say Petitions Committee, it says UK Government and Parliament. It's actually published and presented on behalf of the UK Government and Parliament, not any MPs and not the committee. And everything on that website is on behalf of the government and Parliament. So a lot of people are actually able to do their own investigations, and that's why some of these petitions really should be able to attach evidence and show it. A lot better evidence than that gets spoken in some of those petition committee hearings that they have. It is very tenuous and flimsy. So we're really getting watered down and liquidated. And this is what Dominic Cummings made the conclusion of, that everything's scripted and there isn't actually really any true engagement in government, except what the MPs want to filter out, and it's not really what they're elected to do, because they're meant to be our attorneys in Parliament, and when your attorneys aren't performing well, you're meant to get something done about it.